Hi, my name is Joseph Alai. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about how your manifestation, your desire exists now. And it's just waiting for you to obtain it. This is an important concept because the idea of infinite possibilities needs to be broken down in a way where we can actually prove that this is so and not just a dream. And once we come to the understanding that all things exist now, we can therefore reach out, grab it, and manifest it in our reality. So before we begin, there's a worksheet in the description. Download that. It'll help you with this. Hit the like button. It does something to the algorithm so that those who would not normally be able to see this will be able to see it. And hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for more broken down explanations to prove how manifestation works in a very simple way. So let's jump into this then. So the concept or the claim that I am making is that your manifestation exists right now. That means literally, not metaphorically, there is a place where your desire is. And all we have to do is figure out how to bring it into this world, given that it does exist somewhere. So the concept that I speak of is referring to the imagination. Many refer to the imagination as some random or vague essence that has nothing to do with reality. Some think that it is helpful in bringing forth our achievements, but rather as a way to analyze and then make plans to get what we want. But I claim that the imagination is God. It is the operant power of this world. We, through having the imagination, have a power where we can produce and create all things that we focus on, all things that we deliberately try to manifest in this world. And I want to start by explaining to you how we can come to that conclusion. So the awareness that is aware of our reality, that is God. You can question it, you can wonder if that's true or false, but there's very specific ways to test this. Now, most of the basis from where I'm getting this from stems from the Bible, right? In the Bible, it clearly states that God is awareness. His name is I am. And whenever you are aware of something, you say, I am this, I am that, I am rich, I am poor, I am Joseph, I am living in San Diego. And you can go on and on and on. Now you might say, okay, but there may be a difference between that I am and this I am. And further, it says in Scripture that that is God's name throughout all generations, which means anyone ever to live. Now, how do we get from that I am to proving that that I am is in us, that we ourselves are God? And that goes to the first fundamental or the section of how we can prove that all things exist now. So that awareness itself is aware of our thoughts, our ideas, our imaginal acts, our beliefs, our sensations, meaning this three-dimensional world. So all things exist within our awareness, meaning we can never experience anything outside of our awareness. And it says, through him all things were made, and without him was not anything made that was made. Now that's where we jump into the idea of the imagination. So awareness is the all-encompassing everything. Everything exists within it, and including our imagination, which means the reality that exists here is the same substance of that which is our imagination. Both are just consistent of awareness. Now, if I asked you to imagine that you are holding a piece of paper, just visualize for a moment that you're holding a piece of paper and feel it, bend it, contort it, or even imagine a pen and write on it. If you have the capacity to imagine a piece of paper and you can hear the crinkling of it, you could feel the smoothness of it, you can see the pen writing upon it, then it must exist somewhere. Now, I don't say that to be cheeky or cute. I mean literally. If we have the capacity to perceive it, then somewhere, and that could be just our imagination, it exists. Now, okay, when I first heard that analogy made, I still thought, yeah, but it exists in the imagination. That's not physical. But nevertheless, think about what happens when you fixate in your imagination on a specific thing. So going back to the concept of awareness or God, the letter behind the word of the word God is Jehovah, or Yod He Vav He. It's important because it's a formula, and it's a formula that dictates the process of creation. And it says Yod He Vav He. I'm going to go over each symbol itself. Yod is awareness, He is being aware, Vav is being aware of something, and then the last He is its manifestation into reality. And there are symbols to this. There's a hand and a hammer, that's Yod. There's a window, that's He, right? A window as in awareness, as in almost like our eyes. Vav is a hook which connects that window to the final window, which is the manifestation into this reality. So if you broke it down, it's essentially saying that which we are aware of will be manifested into time space. And that is the name of God. That is what the word I am translates into, reverse translates into when it was originally written. And you can find this clear as day right now. And this is important because if we can fix our attention on anything that we imagine, then it will be pushed out and we will become aware of it, that final window in the formula of manifestation. So with that said, when we fixate on that piece of paper crinkling, if we continuously hold that in our imagination and we focus our awareness on it, which means we become solely aware of that thing, then the rest of the process happens and it will push itself out into this reality. This reality will rearrange to prove to you that which you are aware of. And if you broke that formula down even simpler and you broke all techniques down, you could basically, the least common denominator would be anything that you are aware of will be manifested. Now that's a loaded statement because there are various aspects to that will get you to where you want, and it could be easily misunderstood. Acutely aware is a way I commonly describe it because that means we are solely aware of it, meaning we avoid being aware of anything else and we draw our attention solely to the thing we desire to experience in reality. So there's another verse that says, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread, that have I given to you. Now, again, if we take this in a literal sense, it is basically the way I would describe it and the way I first understood it when I was taught this, before I understood the true meaning of it, was that all of this is mine. Anything I claim to be is mine because I follow God or something to that effect. But really, it's referring to the state or imaginal act that we enter. So there's a verse in the New Testament that says, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it weren't true, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. When I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. It's talking about states or the infinite possibilities that exist within our mind. Now we all, or at least we may know what a state of mind is. That is a common phrase used in our society today. A state of mind is much more than just a passing ideal or a passing phase, but more so, it is actually the causation of everything that we're experiencing right now. Our state of mind pushes out this reality. And so in that verse, it's talking about the infinite different states that exist that we can tap into to create the reality that we desire. So a state is essentially another word for the state of consciousness or your conception of self. And that's important because the conception of self, is anything that we are currently aware of, our current state of mind. And so that could even be an imaginal act. Now we remember, my Father's house has many mansions. the Father, if that is God and awareness is God, then our consciousness is God and the Father. So in our consciousness are many mansions, but really a mansion is just a state. So in our imagination are infinite possibilities. If it wasn't true, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Now that means we go and imagine, since we are Christ, our imagination is Christ. When we go there, it's Christ speaking in that verse, by the way. I go to prepare a place for you. We imagine the end result. And when I go to prepare a place for you, when we imagine that end result, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Which is an analog of the verse, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread, that have I given to you. So when we fixate our imagination on a specific thing, what do you want? What is it that you want? When we are persuaded in imagination of the thing that we want, we activate that state, we activate that reality, and it gets pushed out on the screen of space. Now, why or how do we know that all things are possible? Well, you can logically reason that piece of paper or that thing that you've imagined, you've watched it manifest. If you've seen my videos before for any period of time, then you know that this isn't a joke, this isn't speculation, this isn't a belief system, this is the truth of reality, and you have watched manifestations come to pass. You have proven to yourself that the things that you desire, when you fixate on them and perform a technique to impress your subconscious mind, you will experience them in this world. That piece of paper that exists somewhere, that relationship that we want, it exists somewhere. That amount of money exists somewhere. That physical body that we desire exists somewhere. I've seen it all. I've seen anything and everything manifested that I could possibly imagine, more or less. And it's proof that if we can imagine one thing and the next and the next and the next, it may take a bridge of incidents to get you there, which everything does, but ultimately, whether it's a day, a week, a month, or a year, it will come. It will come to you. And that leads to another verse, and this is important as well, the concept of this. It says, every vision has its own appointed hour. It will ripen, it will flower. If it be long, wait, for it is sure, and it will not be late. That, it says vision for a specific reason. It's talking about the imagination. Every imaginal act has its own appointed hour, right? Vision is internal. It's our imagination. Every vision has its own appointed hour, which means when we imagine something, no matter what it is, it will be made manifest. Now, an experiment that you could perform before I get into a story is do this. The imagination is infinite. It is eternal. It is the eternal body of God in man. It is called the Christ or the Savior for a reason, because it can draw us out of one state and put us into another. If you took a few minutes and closed your eyes, go now to the reaches of the universe in your imagination. Is there a limit? Can you keep going? In essence, the imagination can go places and imagine things that we could barely fathom. The limits of what we can think that we can imagine, we can do that. There are no limits at all, no boundaries. There's no beginning and no end. That's the Alpha and the Omega. That's why that verse is used. The beginning, there is no beginning and the end. All things exist within it. But the very fact that we can imagine anything is the proof that we can attain it in this reality, if that makes sense. So there's a story I want to talk about receiving things despite what this reality says, right? If we can imagine anything, if we can manifest anything, then manifesting a trip or a letter of confirmation or acceptance from something or anything at all, it is definitely possible. So I sent an email recently to my email list. If you're not on it, I would recommend that because I send cool stuff out. But nevertheless, I got an email with a success story from someone, and I'm going to summarize it for you. So this individual was taking a trip, and they were taking a trip to a foreign country on behalf of their university, doing research to gather soil samples. Now, if you know anything about customs and border control, then you know that bringing international goods, especially things that can contain any type of life or even bacteria or something that could alter, modify, or damage the country that you're entering, you are not generally permitted to do it unless you have specific permission to do so. So this individual was traveling internationally to gather samples for their research for their university, and they needed a letter of permission to do that. Now, before this person had written the application to do so, they had imagined that they would receive that permit to do so. But nevertheless, after they had written that application out, they received a letter that was basically rejecting the proposition. And they didn't understand where it was coming from. They basically disregarded it. So this person, again, revised the letter that he got back, and just to revise it into that his permit was coming, that he had been accepted. Again, there were problems. There were problems there. Now, the trip had been planned. There'd been a lot involved. People were paying money to do this. It was very crucial to get it done. The problems came, again, revised and imagined that they already had that permit. They had the permit. They went into their imagination, into that place where the permit existed, because it does exist somewhere. Imagined holding it, seeing that paper, and then ultimately, shortly before the trip, someone specifically had reached out to them and made it their own personal prerogative, took interest in the project and made it their personal prerogative to get that permit and deliver it to them. And that is exactly what happened, and everything went perfectly. So denial of this world, which is only the manifestation of our mind, the persistence and the revision and the imaginal acts reaching into that reality, into that dimension, into that infinite place where all things exist, and holding it there and fixing it there until it became a reality, that is something. And it's government rules. It was to a person who would not manifest, they would say that was a very difficult task to complete, being that there were government entities involved. But nevertheless, the imagination avails always. And I'm going to leave you with this concept that I created a while ago, just to give you an idea of what it is that's within the mind. So I look at the imagination as a reaching point into eternity. Now, eternity, all things exist now. It's allowed to. It's eternity. There's no time and there's no space. But we here are in time space. So the imagination is a telescope that reaches directly into the library of eternity. Now, infinity is within eternity, which means any possibilities ever from now until the end. And you have your idea, your imaginal act. What your imaginal act is doing is reaching into the library, reading the summary of the book in the back, but it's an ending and not an actual brief summary of the book. You look at the back and you know the ending. You pick that book up and it says, I received $1 million. James received perfect health. And you can go on and on and on. There's infinite possibilities there. You grab one with your imagination and you read that end over and over and over and over and over and over. And something there activates. And that eternity becomes refracted through time space and makes this reality conform to the imaginal one, that imaginal book that you grabbed in eternity. And this has been my experience, tested tens of thousands of times throughout the last 10 years. And this works for me. This has worked for tens of thousands of people who follow me, and this will also work for you. It doesn't matter what you want. If you can imagine it, it can manifest. You just have to imagine it properly. And to do so, you visualize yourself already having what you want. Already having what you want. That means you have it. That means it's done. That means after the end. And you repeat that scene over and over until it saturates your mind. That means you're no longer in this reality. You're in the imaginal one. And once you do that, it will impress the subconscious mind. And that process, that bridge of incidents will unfold and refract through time-space. So go and think now about what plays, what books you want to experience in this reality. And then reach into that eternity, that eternal library called God, and watch it pushed out. You are the operant power. Christ is the operant power of God. We can equate all of that awareness, all the definitions of God as we spoke to in the beginning, as your imagination, as your power. So do that now. Now, thank you for watching. If you like this, download that worksheet in the description. It'll definitely help you out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you want more broken down, bite-sized, demystified techniques, etc., and stories of how to manifest anything that you want in a tested fashion. Thank you so much.